Hey, my name is attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I'm with Disability Resolution PA. What we're going to be doing is going over letters that you can obtain from your medical expert, being your doctor, the different types of letters that there are, and the relativity or the relativeness of that strength of their, let's call it medical, well, let me put it this way. We're going to go through how strong that letter is going to be depending on what kind of doctor it is. Okay? And I don't just mean in the sense of, for example, well, this one's a specialist and this one's just a regular physician. It's a general physician. I mean in the sense of we have to go through seeing versus non-seeing. We have to go through the hierarchy of which doctors do what, yada yada. And we have to go through the bias that occurs usually at the Social Security Administration when considering CE reports versus essentially your medical reports. All right. Let's go ahead and begin. Let's begin with the basics of the letter. First and foremost, you're probably going to want that doctor, before completing a letter or doing a letter, to complete a residual functional capacity form. A residual functional capacity form. All right? So long as you can get the doctor to complete a residual functional capacity form, you've done very well. You won't need a letter necessarily thereafter from that doctor. Now, if the claimant is homeless or very, very, very low income, what happens with that is that usually many of the local clinics will not write a letter for the claimant, okay? Because they don't really get to know the claimant that well, and the clinics tend to be at a faster pace, get them in, get them out sort of situation, because there's so many individuals trying to receive free medical help from that particular facility. I'll talk about in another video how to deal with those issues, and we'll go from there. All right. So essentially, you've got a situation here where a residual functional capacity form should be completed before a letter from that doctor. Now let's say, okay, the doctor won't do an RFC, but he will do a letter. Then get a letter. Or you've already got an RFC, but it's a year later and you want an update. Should you get another RFC? Sure. What if the doctor will only do a letter? Then grab the letter. Okay? The letter should include how long the doctor has been seeing you. The letter should include details about, unique things about your claim. For example, that you were seen for a year and then you weren't seen for 3 years, then you were seen again for 5 years. All right? Then the doctor should go into their specialty in reference to, what you were seen for there. If it's a, psychologist going into, physical ailments, then there's a problem. Because let's call it like it is, that's not their specialty. So the doctor should begin going into their specialty as to what limitations and issues you have. All right? They'll go through these details, and what you're really looking for is for the doctor to go into certain things. Like, would you be able to do the types of jobs you've done in the past? Now, they're not a vocational expert, but they could probably add a little testimony to that. You're going to want the doctor to go ahead and make notations, for example, about those things that were printed out from a machine, that was a medical machine that they hooked up to you, to go ahead and almost add, a pattern of knowledge as to, how this all came to be. A timeline of where you were 5 years ago to how you are now. That's very useful for setting an alleged onset date. If you're not sure what an AOD is, alleged onset date, watch one of the other videos. And as the doctor can put this information in and go through all these details, what you need to do is make sure that the doctor also incorporates some basics about your daily living. So for example, would you be able to lift a gallon of milk if you have wrist, arm, elbow, shoulder, or hip issues? For example, would you be able to get along with others if you had to, use public transportation via bus and make 3 different stops or 3 different transfers rather on the way to get there? So that's something to think about, all right? After you go through all these details, hopefully the doctor will put in there some little future reference as to how this is going to, how your disabilities are going to affect you in the future. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why the heck do I need something like that? I just need him to say that I'm disabled, First of all, remember, if a doctor says you're disabled, it doesn't mean that you're disabled. They don't know the law. They're not lawyers, they are doctors. Next, you need to understand that while they may, put information about your current state, your state back in the day, it is important for them to put information about what you're going to be like in the future, because at some point, if you are found disabled, it is very highly likely that you will have to go ahead and have what's called a CE, which is a consultative examination, which is a medical appointment set up by and paid for by the Social Security Administration, which is a fancy way of saying in the future you're going to go through a CDR, which is a continuing disability review, and it is very important that you can point back to a doctor in the past saying, well, this person's likely to get worse, this person is likely to have these issues in the future, yada, 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 yada. And then from there, you have some background to say, well, this is where it's going. And then when you go see another doctor and the other doctor says, yeah, this is where he's at, you've got a great longitudinal timeline of medical proof. All right. Then, of course, have the doctor go ahead and put down, name of facility, print, sign, date. And if you want, you can always request that they put their medical number down. All professionals are given an ID, but you don't really need to as long as it comes from that facility. All right. My name is Attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I'm with Disability Resolution PA, an Orlando, Orange County-based Social Security disability law firm. If you want the most up-to-date information, or you want a free consultation, or you want a custom video made for a particular topic, shoot me an email, give me a call, and we will go from there. Thanks so much. You have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.